a 6-year-old girl who can move things with her mind, a principal who grabs students by their pigtails and throws them across a field like an Olympic event, and a torture closet built into the school wall, lined with broken glass and nails, where children get locked in for hours. This is supposed to be a kids' movie. Our story starts with a baby being born to 2 people who could not possibly care less. Her name is Matilda Wormwood. Her father, Harry, sells used cars. Her mother, Zinnia, spends her days playing bingo. And on the drive home from the hospital, the newborn is strapped in so carelessly that they almost forget she's in the car at all. That's the tone for the entire childhood. Matilda grows up in a nice house, in a nice neighborhood, with 2 parents who treat her like furniture. But here's the twist. She turns out to be a genius. By age 2, Matilda is basically raising herself, because nobody else is going to. Every morning, her brother Michael leaves for school. Harry heads to his car lot. Zinnia heads to bingo, and Matilda is left home completely alone, which is honestly how she prefers it. By 4, she can cook her own meals, and she's read every magazine in the house, so she asks her father for a book. Harry says no. He tells her she doesn't need books because they own a television. And that's the moment Matilda figures out the rule that will define her entire life. Whatever she wants, she is going to have to get for herself. So she pulls out the phone book, finds the nearest library, and walks 10 blocks to get there. Then she does it again the next day, and the next week after week, until she's read the entire children's section and starts working through the rest of the building. Eventually, the librarian notices this tiny girl demolishing the shelves and tells her she can take books home with a library card. And those books become the only real comfort she has. They tell her something nobody in that house ever will. She isn't alone. This goes on for 2 more years before Harry finally walks into her room and notices the stacks of library books on the floor. He doesn't believe her because as far as Harry is concerned, his daughter is 4 years old. Matilda corrects him. She's 6.5, which means she should have been in school a long time ago. He drags her to Zinnia to settle it, and her mother confidently confirms that Matilda is 4. Matilda asks again to go to school. Both parents brush her off, and Zinnia leans over to whisper that she thinks there's something wrong with their daughter. They have a certified genius living in their house, and they've decided she's the problem. Then one evening, Harry comes home in a great mood, bragging about his sales. He hands Michael a pen and paper and starts reading off numbers, what he paid for each car, what he sold it for, so his son can work out the profit. Michael is still scribbling when Matilda says the total out loud.
$1,265.
Instead of being impressed, Harry accuses her of cheating. He insists there's no way she could add those numbers in her head. Then he says the line that changes everything. A bad person needs to be taught a lesson. He drags her off to her room by the ear, never realizing he just handed his daughter a mission statement. Because if bad people deserve to be punished, then Matilda knows exactly which 2 people qualify. The next morning, she sneaks into her parents' bathroom and swaps her father's hair tonic with her mother's hydrogen peroxide. Harry slicks it into his hair, heads downstairs, and learns from his own family that he's just bleached himself platinum blonde. Meanwhile, something much more serious is happening outside. Harry has been receiving packages full of stolen car parts, and parked down the street, FBI agents have been photographing every single delivery. Neither of the adults in that house has any idea. Harry takes Matilda and Michael down to the lot to teach them the family business, and what he demonstrates is straight-up fraud. He shows them a car he bought for $100 with the bumpers falling off and the transmission destroyed. He plans to sell it for $10,000. He glues the bumper back on instead of welding it. He pours sawdust into the transmission so the gears stay quiet just long enough to get the buyer off the lot. Then he takes a drill to the speedometer and spins the mileage backward. Matilda calls him exactly what he is, a crook. Harry's response is basically his whole philosophy. Nobody ever got rich by being honest. He's big, she's little. He's smart, she's dumb. He's right, she's wrong, and there's nothing she can do about it. Remember that speech? It comes back later, out of somebody else's mouth. Then Zinnia pulls up, announcing she won big at bingo, and she's taking the whole family out to eat. Matilda politely hands her father his hat on the way to the car. What she doesn't mention is that she coated the inside of it with industrial-strength glue. At the restaurant, Zinnia tells him to take the hat off. He can't. She assumes he's being stubborn and starts yanking on it herself. The hat does not come off. The brim does. Zinnia goes flying backward into another table. Harry crashes into a waiter and lands face first in the dessert cart. A whole cake drops onto Michael, and a fruit tart lands neatly on Matilda's plate, which she calmly eats while chaos erupts around her. Back home, Harry has finally had enough. He announces that from now on, this family does exactly what he says, when he says it. dinner, then television, no exceptions. Matilda ignores him and keeps reading Moby Dick, so Harry rips the book out of her hands and tears it to pieces in front of her, calling it garbage, then forces her to sit and watch a game show. And that's when it happens. Matilda is so furious, staring at that TV screen, that the television violently explodes. Nobody understands what just occurred, but Matilda knows one thing for certain: she did that. Not long after, Harry sells a car to a customer unlike any he's had before. Her name is Miss Trunchbull, and she runs Crunchem Hall Elementary. As part of the deal, he gets Matilda enrolled. He comes home and tells her she starts school tomorrow, and she hugs him, genuinely thrilled. She has no idea what she's walking into. At school, Matilda makes a friend named Lavender, who immediately starts filling her in on their principal. Miss Trunchbull is a former Olympic athlete who competed in shot put, javelin, and hammer throw, and the hammer throw was her specialty, which becomes horribly relevant when Matilda watches her grab a girl by her pigtails, spin her around, and launch her clean over the schoolyard fence for not liking her hairstyle. And then there's the chokey. It's a tall, narrow hole built into the wall behind a door, with broken glass and nails sticking out of the sides, so there's nowhere to lean, nowhere to sit, and nothing to do but stand there for hours. That's where Trunchbull puts children who annoy her. Fortunately, Matilda's actual teacher is the complete opposite. Miss Honey is warm, patient, and genuinely kind. And within minutes of meeting Matilda, she asks a multiplication question and gets an instant correct answer. She realizes she's teaching a prodigy. So Miss Honey goes to Trunchbull and asks to move Matilda up to an advanced class. Trunchbull refuses immediately. She decides Miss Honey is just lazy and trying to dump a difficult student on somebody else, and tells her to deal with the girl herself. That evening, Miss Honey drives out to the Wormwood house to tell Matilda's parents how gifted their daughter is. Harry barely looks away from the TV. Zinnia explains her worldview instead, which is that looks matter more than books, because looks got her a nice house and a husband. Miss Honey leaves that house understanding exactly what Matilda is dealing with. The next morning, Trunchbull calls a full school assembly. She hauls a boy named Bruce onto the stage and accuses him of sneaking into her kitchen and eating a slice of her personal chocolate cake. Bruce denies it, which only makes her angrier. So she wheels out an enormous chocolate cake and orders him to eat the entire thing in front of the whole school. At first, it's brutal. Bruce slows down. He's struggling, and it looks like she's going to break him. Then Matilda starts cheering, and the entire student body joins in. That's all Bruce needs. He powers through and finishes every last crumb, and the school goes wild. Trunchbull is humiliated. She smashes the empty platter over his head and then punishes the entire school with 5 extra hours of detention, copying out of the dictionary. Matilda finally gets home late that night, and Harry is furious. He doesn't believe a word of her explanation. He's more upset that she wasn't home, because his packages sat on the front porch all afternoon. He explains he won't have the parts shipped to the shop in case police are watching it. Matilda points out, very helpfully, that he shouldn't worry about the shop because the police are watching the house. Zinnia waves it off. She's convinced those men parked outside are speedboat salesmen. The next day at school, Lavender catches a newt in a jar and shows it off to the other kids. And right in the middle of this, Trunchbull comes storming across the yard, absolutely livid. That car Harry sold her has already fallen apart. She grabs Matilda, blames her for her father's scam, and locks her in the chokey. Lavender sprints to warn Miss Honey, but the classroom is already in a panic because Trunchbull just announced she's taking over the lesson personally. Miss Honey has the kids hide anything colorful or fun and asks Lavender to fill a pitcher of water for the principal, which gives Lavender the perfect opportunity. She drops the newt into the pitcher. Miss Honey realizes Matilda is missing, figures out where she is, and quietly slips out to free her. She walks Matilda back into class right under Trunchbull's nose. Then Trunchbull pours herself a glass of water and starts drinking, completely oblivious to the newt swimming in it. The kids start giggling. She looks down and loses her mind. Matilda, being Matilda, calmly informs her that it's a newt, not a snake. Big mistake. Trunchbull instantly decides Matilda is responsible and starts tearing into her. Then she uses almost the exact same words Harry used at the car lot. She's big, Matilda's small. She's right, Matilda's wrong, and there is nothing the girl can do about it. Every adult in this child's life keeps telling her the same thing. And as Trunchbull keeps going, insulting her family, insulting her, something in Matilda snaps. She locks her eyes on that glass. It tips over on its own, and the newt lands right on Trunchbull's chest. Once the room clears, Matilda stays behind and tells Miss Honey the truth. She moved that glass with her mind. Miss Honey doesn't believe her, so Matilda pours another glass and tries to prove it. Nothing happens, because this time she isn't angry. That's the key, and neither of them realizes it yet. Miss Honey invites Matilda back to her cottage instead, and that's where this movie gets a lot heavier. Miss Honey tells her about a little girl whose mother died when she was 2. Her father brought in a relative to help raise her, and that woman turned out to be cruel. Then, when the girl was 5, her father was found dead. Police ruled it a outside. Everything he owned went to the woman he had trusted with his daughter. Matilda looks around that tiny cottage and works it out. Miss Honey is the girl in the story, which means the woman who took everything from her, the woman she still has to work under every single day, is Miss Trunchbull. Matilda tells her she's brave. Miss Honey says she isn't. Matilda admits she used to think grown-ups weren't afraid of anything, and Miss Honey gently corrects her. Adults get scared exactly the same way children do. So Matilda asks the obvious question, what is Trunchbull afraid of? On the walk back, they spot Trunchbull leaving for the gym, and Matilda talks Miss Honey into going inside her own childhood home to take back what belongs to her. Inside, they find the proof of everything. Trunchbull has replaced Miss Honey's father's portrait with one of herself. Miss Honey's old bedroom is sealed up and buried in cobwebs, still full of her family's things. Then they hear the front door, because Trunchbull's new car broke down and she's back early. She notices her chocolate box has been opened, which tells her somebody else is in the house. What follows is a genuinely tense chase through those rooms, with Miss Honey repeatedly stepping into the open to draw Trunchbull's attention so Matilda can slip past. They make it out, and outside, Miss Honey makes Matilda promise she will never set foot in that house again. Back home, Matilda finds Zinnia entertaining the 2 FBI agents in her living room. Matilda tells her mother again that these men are cops. Zinnia is still convinced they sell speedboats. Harry walks in, sees his wife flirting, and the whole thing turns into a screaming match. And Matilda sees an opportunity. She goes to her father and asks him to yell at her. Since he's already furious, he's happy to oblige. And when he's done, Matilda slams her bedroom door shut without touching it. That's the answer. Her power runs on anger. Every insult she's ever swallowed from her parents, her brother and Trunchbull is fuel. So she trains. She starts small, floating a cereal box across the kitchen to make her own breakfast. Then more objects, then several at once, until she can move almost anything she wants with barely any effort. Then the FBI make their move and break into the Wormwood garage. Matilda catches them in the act and informs them very politely that entering private property without a search warrant is illegal because she's read a constitutional law book. They tell her the truth instead. Her father is going to prison and she's going to an orphanage. So Matilda uses her powers to roll their car down the street, and while they're chasing it, she lifts the surveillance tape of her father right out of their hands, buying him time she isn't sure he deserves. Then she breaks her promise to Miss Honey. She goes back to Trunchbull's house, not to steal, but to retrieve one thing, Miss Honey's childhood doll. And while she's at it, she decides to haunt the place. She floats the doll out through a window. She swaps the portraits back. She makes the clock strike wrong. She lifts chocolates out of the box in midair. Trunchbull is genuinely terrified and runs out of her own house. But Matilda makes one mistake. She leaves behind a hair ribbon. Trunchbull finds it, and she knows exactly whose it is. The next day, Matilda finally proves her powers to Miss Honey, who gets to see it with her own eyes. Then Trunchbull storms into the classroom and takes it over. She's not there to teach. She's there to force a confession out of Matilda in front of everyone, and Matilda decides she's done being afraid. She uses her powers to write a message across the blackboard, one letter at a time, in front of the entire class. She writes it as the ghost of Miss Honey's father. It accuses Trunchbull of killing him. It demands she give the house back to his daughter and get out. Trunchbull absolutely loses it and turns on the children, but this time they aren't defenseless. Matilda uses everything she has to protect them, and the whole class turns on Trunchbull at once, driving her out of that school. She runs, terrified, and she never comes back. With her gone, everything changes. Miss Honey moves back into her father's house, and Matilda visits constantly, until the day her family pulls up outside. The FBI has closed in on Harry, and the Wormwoods are fleeing the country tonight. They've come to collect Matilda, and Matilda says no. She has a better idea. She asks Miss Honey to adopt her, and she has the paperwork ready. Zinnia hesitates. She tells Matilda that she's the only daughter she ever had, and then she admits the truth, that she never understood her, not even a little, so she signs. It is, without question, the kindest thing those two people have ever done for their daughter. Harry warns Miss Honey not to come after him for support money, and she tells him they'll manage just fine. Then the Wormwoods drive off, and Matilda finally has the family she's wanted since the day she was born. Miss Honey eventually becomes the new principal of Crunchem Hall, and the school becomes a place kids actually want to be. As for Matilda, she never needs her powers to defend herself again. She only uses them for fun now, and the movie closes on the sweetest possible image. Matilda curled up with Miss Honey, reading Moby Dick out loud as a bedtime story.